the invaders. No Northman had been seen since the day they had been pushed back across the border, but the danger of another surprise invasion always loomed, and Thamir was the key to Ilirya's defense. Twice a year, the military garrison near Thamir rotated, and the soldiers passing through Thamir brought us news of the outside world. They were like the first handful of water after you've thirsted for hours. When you live so far from all other villages, any contact you have with other humans is a precious gift. The soldiers were one of the few links that kept us tethered to the rest of the kingdom and reminded us that we did not live alone in the world, surrounded by only snow and trees as neighbors. The stories the soldiers brought were how I learned about the rest of Ilirya. I learned about farming from soldiers whose families farmed wheat and corn. I learned about deserts and oceans and mountains from soldiers who had seen them with their own eyes. I learned about hundreds of animals I'd never seen and never would. For me, a child full of fantasy and imagination, there could have been no greater gift than tales of this other, dreamlike world. I inhabited the soldiers' stories, expanded upon them, made new worlds with them, and then destroyed them. Sometimes I was a lady-in-waiting to the queen, sometimes a knight's page looking across the battlefield at the enemy. I hunted with golden eagles in the southern mountains and fished for shimmering blue fish longer than I was tall in the great ocean at the kingdom's farthest eastern edge. But even children know that dreams are not real. Although I loved the soldiers' stories, their fanciful worlds were not for me. After all, my future was inevitably rooted in Thamir's soil. I would become a trapper like the women in my family before me. I would live with my parents until the day I married and moved into a house of my own. This was how it had always been for the women of my village, and how it would surely be for me as well. It was so simple it required no thought, no emotion. Why dream about a future that cannot be? My brothers, Kem and Kyan, and I were born children of the Ice Crown, and we would die children of the Ice Crown. Or at least, I thought so. When I was 11, a stranger arrived in Thamir. He came bundled head to toe in the pelts of dozens of white snow hares, with only his pale blue eyes visible, his blonde eyelashes covered with ice and snow. He was traveling on the longest day of winter, when the temperature was low enough to freeze tears torn loose by the wind against your cheek, and the sun shone for only a few hours before it was swallowed up by the darkness. He arrived silent as a shadow, slipping into the village by the light of the half-moon, as the women and children sat around the communal fire, talking and keeping warm. "Oh!" Ma Wren squeaked in surprise when she caught sight of him. The women all looked at him, curious. A quiet murmur went up around the fire, muffled by the rules of politeness. I couldn't remember the last time we'd had a stranger come. Perhaps it hadn't happened at all in my lifetime. "I'm sorry to have startled you," the man apologized in a low voice. "I was passing through not a quarter-mile away and saw the light of your fire. I've been traveling all day and my feet are half frozen from the cold. Will you permit me to rest a minute by your fire?" "Oh, yes, do sit down and warm yourself," my Aunt Aeryn said, shifting to make room on the thick log that served as a bench before the fire for him. "It's a cold night." "Yes, it is." The man sat down and held his booted feet toward the fire. In less than a minute, a thin plume of steam smoked off them as the snow evaporated. He took his gloves off and rubbed his hands together to warm them. "What in the world are you doing traveling this time of year?" Megan scolded him, rocking her child to keep him asleep. "The cold can kill a man." "That it can," the stranger agreed in a slow drawl. "But I'm from Hargeisa, and I've spent my whole life in the Ice Crown. The cold doesn't scare me. It's too late to continue on tonight anyway. Is there any spare place here in this village to lay down my bedroll?" "I have room," Ma Wren offered. The stranger nodded with a grateful smile. He lifted his pack and followed her back to her house, leaving his gloves by the fire. A few minutes later, the two returned. The man shook the